This is verse 41 of the 6th chapter of the Gospel of John. Jesus has been driving home the point that those who come to him are those who were given to him by his Father, and that those who are given will come and that he won't cast them out. And he's at least impliedly saying that those who recognize the deeper significance of the feeding of the 5,000 would recognize this and recognize that he is the one to be believed. He's the one that has been sent from heaven. So there are some who believe, and of course there are some who don't. And what we have now in verse 41 is the introduction of those who don't, those who at least on the face of it appear not to have been given to Jesus by the Father, and therefore, rather than recognizing the truths that he's claiming about himself, they rather begin to raise objections and complaints. And we see that reflected in this first word, egonudzon. This is from gogunzo. It is a pretty rare word in the New Testament. It means to complain. It actually has more the idea of to murmur, and the actual pronunciation of the word may suggest something of that. But this is the third person plural, imperfect active indicative, so it suggests that they were complaining, they were murmuring. The impression you get is talking among themselves, talking back and forth in a complaining, critical kind of fashion toward Christ. They were complaining, the conjunction, therefore, they were complaining, hoi udaioi, the Jews, term that John will customarily use to refer not to Jewish people in general, but to the Jewish leadership, to those who are the elite, the upper scholarly class. They're the ones who are really the nitpicking ones. And so the Jews, in that sense, are the ones who are complaining. Peri, this means about or concerning, takes the genitive, so out to in the genitive case, the pronoun, masculine singular genitive. So they were complaining concerning him. Hoti, the conjunction means either that or because. Context determines here. Because is, of course, to be preferred. So they were complaining concerning him because apen, from lego, third person singular, aorist active indicative, because he said ego eimi. We saw that formula earlier, I am, and John uses it so strategically that it always recalls to our mind the formula from the Septuagint version of the Old Testament, in which this name, this set of words, really stood for the name of God. In this case, ego eimi, I am, ho artos, the bread, ho katabas. This is from katabino. Katabos is the aorist active participle. It's masculine, singular, nominative. Katabino means I go down, so this is the bread, the coming down, or having come down, really, aorist participle. I am the bread, the having come down. Ek, out of, takes the genitive to, the genitive masculine, singular article, uranu, out of heaven. Uranu, the word for heaven. And so the Jews were complaining. These Jewish leaders were raising their voices, murmuring concerning Jesus because he had made this extraordinary claim concerning himself, that he was the bread that had come down from heaven. A comment that was triggered, of course, by the earlier conversation in which they were wanting Jesus to do something comparable to what Moses had done, feeding the people for 40 years straight. And Jesus goes one better and says he is the bread that's come down, and that in effect he's saying not just for 40 years, but for eternity. This will be the sufficient bread, such that if a person eats this bread, they will never hunger again.